Hi everyone, and welcome to the first Anthropocene Sediment Network conference. I'm Catherine Russell. I lead the Anthropocene Sediment Network, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit before we kick off about the way that the Anthropocene Sediment Network came to be, and what we aim to do, and how we're going to do that. So I'm so excited for today, and we've got some fantastic speakers lined up from many different disciplines from all across the globe. So I'm really excited that you're here with us, and let's get going. So the Anthropocene Sediment Network aims to empower community-driven solutions on a changing planet. By sediment, we're referring to anything that can move on Earth, from sand on a beach to the device you are reading this on. And by Anthropocene, we simply refer to now, the present moment. So, our network encourages collaboration and dialogue, promoting advances in research across disciplines to tackle the unique dynamics of our changing planet. That is our website address, and I'll tell you a bit more about the website at the end of this talk. So, who am I? Well, I started with geology at school, with a school project, and I did my traditional training in geology. And then I did some lecturing at the University of Leicester, which is where I started thinking about the Anthropocene Sediment Network because I ran some experiments that I'll show you in a moment, which were starting to really kind of show that the world that I'd been learning about maybe wasn't quite the same anymore. And then I did a Fulbright scholarship in Louisiana to study what how river systems were changing because of our influence. And I've done two courses now at the University of Vienna. One last year was the first course in Anthropocene sedimentology, and I got back a week ago from teaching the field course on Anthropocene sedimentology as well. So that's all been really fun. And from all of this, the Anthropocene Sediment Network emerged. So this is from a paper that I published a couple of years ago, and we'll just start by watching this guy here. And you see it removes itself. Now, what we had before that kind of came out was a really neat bed form shape. And typically in geology, these migrate downstream just a little at a time, like is shown in this image here. But what happens when we put plastic pieces in the riverbed is, from what we found, they start to kind of disintegrate and the bed forms behave a little bit more unpredictably as individual particles can become removed, and then even like large areas of these particles can start to get removed as well. And these can cause the bed forms to actually collapse. We're watching this one change shape right in front of our eyes. None of this is sped up. So, yeah, this really, to me, changes. Oh, there goes the second one. And there we see it's starting to get flatter. And so I just really started to become incredibly aware of the way in which these particles and things that we've influenced and what we've done and what we're continuing to do to Earth, it's actually really fundamentally changing some of the things that we almost take as a given for how we might expect this. But then how do we talk about it? So I came up with these. This paper was in collaboration with Roberto Fernandez and Florian Pohl. And we just started thinking about like how do we do this then? How do we talk about this and classify plastic as a sediment? This works for not just plastic, but also any anthropogenic materials. And then this one is for studying, well, when what does it look like? So how do we then start talking about this in terms of anthropogenic facies in a consistent kind of way? So once we can start classifying it, we can start talking about it more, which helps with interdisciplinary collaborations. But then there's still this other issue as well, which is the causal story, because when we're studying the plastic that's in the river, we don't know how the plastic got to the river. We're not understanding the full process. So if we don't understand the cause and effect mechanism, we can't really test a hypothesis, and so we can't meaningfully investigate it. And this is where the multidisciplinary element of the Anthropocene Sediment Network steps forward. So we all collectively need to understand the baselines and context of this material and these environments, the physical influences and constraints on sediment movement in the environment, how we are temporary hosts of objects in a material flow. Like one day I'll probably break these glasses and they'll end up in a landfill site somewhere. But right now I'm a temporary host of this object. The complexity of the human-Earth interface from pollution to urbanization is all enmeshed in this causal story. We are part of the mechanism, but we are interacting with our environment through that, with the cause and effect. And that's what we're aiming to study with the Anthropocene Sediment Network and how we're kind of building our hypotheses and what we're going to be doing together. Part of this is in considering similarity and difference. So everything on the left-hand side here, anyone who's got a geological background will recognize as uniformitarianism, which is a lovely long word. But what we kind of like assume when we're looking at things sometimes is that there is a process continuity, so the same sorts of things have always happened in the same kind of way, a rate consistency, that it's at generally comparable rates. And then uniformity of physical laws, which some people here may know as actualism. So, if we're looking at a couple of instances, maybe gravity was the same across them, and so that's, a definite thing that fits in with something that has a similarity. But we need to be looking more and more increasingly at differences as well. So identifying exactly what is being compared, what time is being compared, horizon comparisons and object comparisons. How can we spatially and temporally describe the discordance? So over space and over time, how is it changing and what is this impacting the sediment that's being created? And then also, what are the overarching forces? What forces have increased and decreased in power? Maybe that's us. Maybe that's climate change, which is then in turn influenced by us. Maybe it's just simply the fact that there was a flood that year that had nothing to do with anything else. But we need to be understanding all of this so that we can really get to grips with the complexity of the modern causal story. So there's this common narrative about discipline restrictions and how we need to know more about more, which is true, but only partially true, because there is also a communication deficit. So we need to try and find ways to understand the lenses through which other disciplines view the world, and how they obtain and communicate their knowledge about the world so that we can really start meaningfully stepping into those spaces within the context of Anthropocene sediment. So, for example, geologists tend to write papers, historians tend to write books, and then we also have some phenomenal artists speaking today who produce works of art that have got incredible narratives behind them that we could all benefit from understanding, because this is about all of our experiences. So what if, this is the experiment, this is the ASN experiment, okay, so what if we all step out of our disciplinary boundaries a little? And what if it wasn't just sedimentology? What if everything was just sediment? And what if everything that moves on the surface of Earth is sediment? So those are the assumptions, and from that, the Anthropocene Sediment Network was born. We sit between physical and social science, and not just science, but studies, so physical studies and social studies, so that we can understand the physical forcings and the social forcings that are impacting the environment. And that is represented today by this image that's on the program that I just put together because I kind of really wanted to explain how we are all on the same planet. Everything that was being spoken about today fits onto a landscape because we're all talking about human-Earth interactions and those complexities therein. So honestly, this is going to be such a fun day going around and exploring these different parts of the environment from different lenses, and I'm super excited to go through this. So the structure of today's participation, the aim of the ASN and today's meeting is to empower the community to access what you need individually and also to support your discipline. To use this network, sign up at the Get Involved button on the website, and then you're on the mailing list where we distribute information opportunities to get involved in community projects. There will be a newsletter, normally at the end of every month, but then also there'll be updates as well during the month if something is going on or people need calls for collaboration to go out urgently. If you have a project that you would like to have a multidisciplinary reach, just let me know and it goes in the next newsletter or into an update. These are two ongoing collaborative ventures at the moment, both of them ASN projects. Both will produce books. Check these out on the website under calls for collaboration. And yeah, so today, conference housekeeping, each speaker will have 15 minutes of time, 12 minutes for the talk, 3 minutes for questions. We are recording the whole meeting, but it won't all be available afterwards because this is at the discretion of the speakers. Please prepare questions from in the chat during the presentations, and I'll read the questions from the chat as chair. So last but not least, thank you for being here. Let's have an excellent first conference of the Anthropocene Sediment Network together. So let me know if you have any questions and enjoy the day. Thank you.